And today's presentation is called Making Delegation Work. Five hidden patterns more, actually, that sabotage productivity and profits, and why smart entrepreneurs stay stuck doing everything. This is a business educational presentation. So I just invite you not to network or to chat with each other in the chat system here, just out of consideration and respect to me and other people here. So that'll be really great if you do that. Welcome. And again, a couple of ground rules here. It's a very focused breakthrough session. And I do mean that. Those of you who know me know I keep my word. As long as you keep yours and you engage, I promise you breakthroughs and at least the very least insights into how you can make this whole art and science of delegation work in your business. Most of our time will be spent in Q&A. And that's, like I said, that's really where the real transformation occurs. Okay. Active participation is essential. It's not required, but it's essential. If you're passively observing, you're not going to get much out of this. It'll be kind of like information only. So I invite you to come prepared to really examine your own patterns honestly for yourself, so that you can see what's underlying where you may be stuck or where you may be performing really well. So what you will learn today, firstly, you'll identify your core sabotaging pattern. We call this the XY technology, and you'll see very soon why I call it that. Secondly, you're going to build from what I call this process of being, and you'll start understanding what I mean by being. From being, you can actually design very well what your business should look like. From design, you can design a good strategy, and from a good strategy, design systems. And we don't want to do this backwards, which is what most people do. They set up their systems first. They buy platforms, and then they see, well, the platform kind of fits this strategy, that fits this design, and therefore I'll be happy. It almost never works that way. So you got to start from some level of being. The being expresses a future statement for your business, the future you want to lead your business to for your clients, for your employees, and for yourself. You want to start from there is my invitation. And that, I think, clarifies the thinking, makes life a lot easier for a lot of people. You get an opportunity to diagnose why you can't let go of certain tasks or things that you do or things that you worry about, perhaps even when you want to let go of them. Why do people tend to hold on to worry and angst? How do you transform your patterns that are stopping you into your superpower? It's an old Chinese saying, with every crisis comes an opportunity. With every awareness comes an opportunity to grow and to develop what I call your superpower, so your abilities to really lead and create a better business than you may have imagined. A little bit about me. My name, again, is Sunil Bhaskaran. I've been mentoring entrepreneurs since 1991. The founder of a 200,000 plus member global entrepreneur community. Some of you came from that. Some of you came from a LinkedIn community. Some of you came from referral. Some of you came through Bijal. So community, thank you for being here. I'm the founder and CEO of the Global Small Business School. We're a school providing affordable programs for people in business. The author of 2 books published on Amazon with 2 more on the way. I'm a speaker, corporate trainer. I mean, vast difference in the worlds of global poverty and in climate change currently. And I'm also constantly in demand speaker. And these are some of the places I've spoken at. There are way more places than these. Just a couple of testimonials, and I promise you we'll get into the content you came here for. This is one of the case studies that I have, a very good client, still a very good client, been working with them for 20 years. Helped build them from a team of 6 people to now 1,200 people with 55 managers. And pretty much everything that I'm sharing today, we've done with them and continue to do, and continue to help them grow even further. They, meaning Eric Hess and his wife, are the co-owners of Compass LLC, Compass Cares LLC, and they certainly do credit the distinctions that I'm about to present present to you today in helping them grow and to grow very well. You can see from the smile that Eric, he pretty much looks like that all the time. Of course, there are rare moments like everybody, like every entrepreneur, when he doesn't look like that. But for the most part, he does look like that. Pretty happy, productive. Some of you may have come through Bijal, and you're working with Bijal as a client who hires his admins. I do work cheek by jowl with Bijal in helping his clients work more effectively with his admins. If you're interested in doing that, reach out to me or reach out directly to Bijal if you're looking to hire admins who can help you in this process of really getting your strategy right so your work with your admins it flows better. Okay. You can learn more about me at my website, sunilbhaskaran.com. And let's dive into the content right now. So the problem you may be facing, or you are facing, is that you're trying to let go of the tasks and worries, etc., but you tend to keep jumping back in. Jumping back in is you get into the minutia, you start getting into the management of it when you know you don't need to necessarily. You know what to delegate, but yet it never sticks. You feel that people don't come up to par who are working for you. So you eventually take it over. Sometimes you say things like it's easier for me to do it myself than to train them. You train people and still end up redoing the work. You build systems, but they disappear. The systems disappear the moment you start getting busy. And I show you these are all very common problems. And they can be resolved, but they can probably resolvable at a level that you may be surprised to discover. Some of you may not be that surprised to discover this, but if you've ever said things like this, I just can't find the right people, or it's faster if I do it myself, or I train them, but it never sticks, then you don't need more tips. It's where most people go. They just need tips or hacks. But what you really might need to do is to uncover the pattern. People call it a mindset. I don't quite like that term. It's really a pattern that's running in your business, the level of what we call your being or your ontology, which is the study of being, who your being gives your performance, you could say. So you could say that, if you're being someone courageous, you'll have certain kinds of actions that are correlated with being courageous, which gives you the kinds of results you would expect from a courageous person. But if you're someone who tends to be someone who avoids dealing with things, then you can see that if you're an avoidant kind of leader, you would get kind of avoidant kinds of actions that lead to perhaps a lack of performance or no performance. So I invite you to start looking at it like that. But if you just joined us and you have any background noise, please mute yourself out of courtesy to everybody else. I'll only say that once. Please do that. Thank you. Why this keeps happening? It's not about skills, and it's not really necessarily even about hiring the right person, although that can play a big role, obviously. And it's not even really about systems, because you probably met or know people, could be you, who have really good systems, but something's still not working. My assertion is that it's the hidden pattern that's driving your decisions unconsciously. This is not NLP or anything like that. It's really quite straightforward. Okay, it's the hidden pattern that's driving your decisions. We're going to start uncovering it. Until you diagnose it, you'll stay trapped doing everything yourself. So you could say that delegation is a function of being present. What do I mean by this? If you are distracted or not present or alert to your team and your primary focuses, the question is, how can you delegate or organize work efficiently? So some people are distracted by things or worries or fears or things that they tend to avoid. And those things tend to distract you from really being focused on what really works. Some people overcompensate for things or undercompensate for things that they're trying to avoid. And so we're going to start diving into this world of what it looks like to be distracted and not present to your team and your business. So we're going to start working through this distinction I call the hidden pattern structure. or the XY. You could say that X is something that you're avoiding with an honorable intention Y. Or sometimes I call it a seemingly honorable intention Y. So X is something you're avoiding. For example, you may be avoiding losing control with an honorable intention of protecting your reputation. But the backfire is in avoiding losing control while pursuing your honorable intention. It creates just more of losing control and blocks the achievement of Y. It's kind of uncanny when you look at it. The French have a saying, the more things change, the more they remain the same. You know, the more you resist something, the more what you resist persists. So the result tends to be an exhausting cycle where you tend to do everything yourself. Other examples I'm going to get into here of the XY. I'm really committed that each and every one of you get what your XY could be or is, so that you can uncover what you don't know that you don't know, that's holding you back, that's your blind spot in your business. If you don't know what your blind spot is, well, you'll continue to be blind when you actually do have vision or the opportunity to see something. So, other examples could be you're avoiding being let down. You have an honorable intention of ensuring success, but it's that avoiding being disappointed that drives everything. It's like, don't think of being disappointed. If I keep telling you, don't think of being disappointed, whatever you do, Bijal, don't think of being disappointed. You're going to start thinking about being disappointed, and that tends to run everything in the background. So let's get into more examples here. Okay. Now, this may or may not pertain to some of you, but my assertion is somewhere, if you're not having any performance, my assertion is that you probably have an XY running in the background. So somewhere where you know you're not up to par in your performance, I can almost guarantee you that you have an XY running in the background, undistinguished to you and your team. So another example is you avoid accountability being X. And so what you're avoiding is you're avoiding accountability for yourself and others with an honorable intention to be, or seemingly honorable intention of appearing or being safe, comfortable, and operating inside of what you already know. So it's kind of comfortable. The intention is to be comfortable, but you're avoiding the accountability. Some of you may be avoiding the full accountability. Like some promises you can handle and you'll do, but other promises, well, it's kind of like not that effective, right? The backfire is while avoiding X, while pursuing more of being comfortable, avoiding the accountability while pursuing more comfort, creates more of the lack of accountability and blocks the fulfillment of Y. Because if you're not having accountability and you're not accounting for your promises, how can you really, if you're not achieving your promises in your business, how can you really have even comfort? At some point, you're going to put your business into risk. So again, this results, you can start seeing a theme here, an exhausting cycle with poor results and growing self-doubt. Because what happens is the more you avoid accountability in an honorable intention to create safety and security in your business, what you do is you just create more disappointment. More disappointment, another disappointment. Oh, I tried so hard, but boy, I'm still disappointed, not getting the results I really want, because you're not really focused on the key things that are driving your performance. So that results in more poor results and growing self-doubt. You can kind of see how this starts working. You might notice this in other people or yourself, but you want to start really digging into this and starting getting really honest about what's happening in your own business. Another example is avoiding loss of control. So you're avoiding losing control over quality and outcomes in your business. So you have a fear that's running you that you could say it's not really the fear, but it's how you're relating to the fear that you're avoiding dealing with that. With an honorable or seemingly honorable intention to maintain high standards and excellence. The backfire is that the more you micromanage everything, because you're avoiding losing control, it just creates more chaos and poor results, and the less you're really training other people to handle things for you, obviously. The result is, again, burnout while the team becomes more dependent on you and disengaged. Okay, so I hope you're beginning to get this, seeing this for yourself or perhaps your team. Another example, avoiding being let down. So what you're doing is you're avoiding being disappointed by others' work with an honorable intention to ensure the work gets done right. This happens for a lot of super competent leaders who are really good at what they do. They've been doing it alone by themselves for a long time. So they avoid being disappointed by working with others to ensure the work gets done. This is such a common one for super competent leaders. It's such a huge blind spot. You're looking at someone who dealt with this himself. The backfire is you end up never trusting others, which means you're always overwhelmed because you're going to take on what other people should be doing, or you should be training other people to do. The result is the team never really develops any capability, and you don't fine-tune your team by, well, truthfully, firing the people who are just not going to be coachable. And so you keep them on, and you get rid of people who are actually very coachable and hungry to take on work, but they require a little bit of training. So it's going to be very, very difficult for you to scale if your scaling depends on having and hiring other people. Okay. Another example is you avoid looking incompetent. So you look like you don't know what you want to avoid looking like you don't know what you're doing to other people or even your team, and with an honorable or seemingly honorable intention to appear capable and in command. A lot of this has to do with, kind of like looking good about it. The backfire is never asking for help or delegating proves that you can't really lead. You can't kind of escape that. It's the truth. The result is you become the very bottleneck while pretending everything is fine. This might seem a little harsh, but it's the truth. Gloria Steinem, I think, said it the best. The truth shall set you free, but first it might kind of piss you off. And it's good to go through the quick piss off to get to less suffering and more joy. For some of you, you're going to see there's a fork in the road coming up where one fork leads to continued suffering, more of the same, you could say, with short spurts of joy here and there. The other fork in the road is where I invite you all, ladies and gentlemen, to go to, which is where you have long-term joy. But you may have to deal with certain things in the short term, which usually turns out to be quite short-term suffering in order to get to the long-term joy. And I hope you get the spirit of where I'm coming from, this conversation. So how does this pattern destroy literally everything? Well, it destroys your time, endless tasks that others should be doing. Destroys your energy. You get exhausted from doing everything yourself. Your team suffers because they're underutilized, disengaged. This disengaged is a big part, especially for those of you who hire admins. A lot of these admins are very enthusiastic when they start. The enthusiasm can drop really quickly if you start running these XYs with them. So your team never really develops, never really grows. Your own growth as a leader. So there's a ceiling you have that is your personal capacity. For some of you, you're trained to be lone wolves, working by yourself. You haven't quite mastered the art and science of delegation and training, and perhaps a little bit of patience in the short term. So there's a ceiling for you in your growth, and that destroys pretty much everything in your business, because if you don't grow, it's kind of hard to really have any fun in business. So this blind spot called your XY prevents you from being alert and present to your team's true potential. In fact, your business's true potential. So this, traditional delegation training fails typically because what most people teach are techniques while you're still operating from the avoidance or the aversion we talked about, which is your XY. It addresses symptoms, but not root causes of resistance. So adding more systems to your collection of unused frameworks, just all it does is it increases your anxiety, and now you have more things you should do but can't sustain. I'm sure many of you have done courses, perhaps on management or team leadership, and your books that you've gotten or your videos that you've gotten accumulating dust. But that's not really the problem. The problem may be that you're just not really addressing the root causes. So what does dissolving the root cause do for you? Firstly, it multiplies your capacity. So you stop being the bottleneck in your business. It empowers your team. So you start developing leaders who can take true ownership. You can start scaling with confidence. Let go without anxiety or having to redo things. You can start transforming exhaustion into, from a control pattern to becoming a creative flow. And, we're going to start getting into a Q&A. So I'm going to start inviting you all to line up your questions here pretty soon so I can engage with you and your particular needs. Because I can go on talking for a lot about delegation, etc. But I really want to hear from some of you on what you're really dealing with and what your questions might be. So please start lining up your questions for me to answer, okay? The 4 transformations available. In fact, there are way more than these, but these are the 4 primary ones I've seen with my clients. You start really transforming the control grip. For some people, you'll start noticing that most people either deal in the world of chaos. They've been trained in dealing in chaos. So they have a lot of chaos or drama in their world, or they have a lot of rigidity with over control. What I'm advocating for is having a flexible system, a system that can respond to things, that works for you, that is flexible enough so that it doesn't stress you out. It works when it needs to work right in a more intense manner. And, for other things, you don't need to be that intense. And I can describe that and answer questions about that. Gives you an ability to transform your control grip into an empowered release, just what I call trust-based delegation. Now, trust doesn't mean that you're just willy-nilly going to give someone who's not competent all the work. You got to build trust as you go along. They also got to build trust with you, whoever you're working with. And we can certainly talk more about that. You have the opportunity to transform from being a solo hero, person who's a leadership who does everything himself, to being a scalable leader, building capacity, not dependency. You can start going from overwhelm to strategic focus. Do only what only you can do, and delegate the rest. Okay. Of course, in the end, you really want to start delegating as much as possible, even the things that you think you can do alone. I can move from system collapse to sustainable structure delegation that sticks. There are generally 5 transformational stages. The first is awareness. And some of you are paying attention, are beginning to get aware of what your XYs may be and what your blind spots may be. Some of you, I know, joined a little bit late. You may have missed that part, but that's what we covered in the first part of this webinar. So awareness. Once you get an awareness, you start normalizing the awareness. You start getting, okay, you start getting past the trauma of the awareness. Because sometimes these awarenesses can be traumatic, especially when you may be used to a certain way of being or behavior. Once you normalize, you have an opportunity to create a new future for your business. I've had the honor and the privilege of having tons of people who have worked with me create new futures for their business and for themselves inside of their business. It's a beautiful, beautiful process to go through. And it creates a lot of refreshing honesty for people to look at where they want to lead their company to in the future, authentically and really. Once you have an authentic new future, a future that you can own and are willing to commit to 100%, not 1,000%, then you have an opportunity to really create a good design to fulfill that future. Once you have a good design, you can start building systems and structures inside of that design and start having accountability till you have a fulfillment of your new vision statement or new future statement. So these are like the 6 stages that I've seen clients go through, okay? And I'm sharing this with you so you have a sense of what this could look like. For some people, this might take 3 months to do. For others, it might take a year. It just depends on how ambitious you are what kind of results you're looking to produce, and in what time frame. What makes this process different? It addresses your foundational relationship to control itself. Some of you have no relationship to control, so you may have kind of like chaos. Some others of you have an overly rigid relationship to control or to management, I should say. And my invitation is, how can you transform that into a flexible, manageable system that really works efficiently and effectively for you? You have an opportunity in this process to do precision analysis of specific patterns creating your resistance. It's wonderful to watch people in my workshops and one-on-one coaching. See, when people really get in a precise manner what their XY is, because it creates so much clarity. And once you have clarity, you have an opportunity to have a blank canvas from which you can create a new future. This is not motivation. It's not mindset work or more systems to collect. I don't want to give you an extraordinary amount of unnecessary work. I want to give you an extraordinary amount of focus work that will get you to where you need to go. It'll dissolve the pattern that makes delegation fail. So that's what makes this different, this process. I'm going to shortly just describe here a little bit what makes good design. Good design is not based, it's a design that's not based on your XYs. For most people, when you look at the design of their business, it's almost centered around their XYs, what they're avoiding dealing with. So they design structures that are designed to avoid dealing with what they need to deal with in order to have the results they're looking for. It's a design based on your future statement, which you can arrive to once you've cleared out your XY. It's a design based on your objectives and your style. It's a design based on what I call currencies to measure. You could see that currencies in any ecosystem you're in, whether you're an organization or you have your business, it's an ecosystem. Any ecosystem, like our ecosystem, our economy, in our capitalist economy, we have money as a currency. And money is used to measure performance or to exchange, etc., or to interrelate with other people. So common forms of currency, you could say, are money, relationships, or promises. My assertion is all of these, in fact, even money is really, they call money a promissory note. And even relationships are all contingent on your effectiveness in managing, designing, making, and keeping promises. So you could say that the basic currency is promises, and any good design has to incorporate your ability to design, create, manage promises effectively. Making promises is also very key because you don't want to make promises that you're not going to keep. Many people make promises based on their XYs, unbeknownst to them, and that leads to a lot of ineffectiveness. Okay, so I just wanted to touch base on this. You probably have more questions in the Q&A. Happy to answer. Again, client case here, Compass Cares. I mentioned them earlier. They are, I think I don't need to share much more about them. I've already shared what the kind of transformation they've gone through. But I'll say this much, when they started accounting for their promises and they created a new vision, in 2005, I believe, when I first started working with them. And the vision they created was to save 1 million lives in California. Now, that vision has transformed over the years, but that vision, once they had that as an anchor versus the XYs that they distinguished, led to an explosion in growth and a certain ease that you can actually see in Sadie and Eric in these photographs that I promised you in 2005 did not exist that well. So, if you're looking to be joyful, which is part of my mission statement, is to have 100 million joyful and successful entrepreneurs by 2050, what I've seen is, distinguishing your XYs and creating a new future and redesigning your business, or keeping the design in your business that's working and letting go of the designs that are not, really does make a huge difference, like Compass did. Okay, a couple of things about programs, because I know some people ask me about these. The work is done one-on-one with owners in the primary management. The engagements can run from $2,000 per month minimum. Other economy packages that are less or more affordable than $2,000 per month, I call them Get You Started, can be discussed if you're interested. These are typically, I work very intensively with people because it takes quite a bit of work one-on-one to get transformation going. So this is really, I work from the level of being, distinguishing your XYs, to designing your systems, helping you create a new future if you don't have one for your business, creating the design for the systems to execution. The 3-month minimum commitment for pattern transformation and to get things going. If you're interested in finding out more, you may be interested, how do I start with you? I offer a joyful workflow discovery session. And what you will get from the session is have your remaining concerns resolved, the questions resolved. I'll be listening keenly to what you need and show you a pathway to effective delegation and then scalable leadership. And then only if we are a match will I introduce you to a program that fits what you need and your budget. And I'm going to share with you the link where you can schedule a time. Now, some of you already scheduled a time with me. I'm looking forward to meeting with you, and it's really gratifying to see some of you do that. But you can click on that link and schedule a time with me if you have any other questions. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on now to your breakthrough Q&A. So this is an opportunity for you to ask questions about your specific patterns and questions about your business or your delegation. I invite any questions that are pertinent to this topic of delegation. Bring your real delegation challenges for live analysis here. You'll make a huge difference for other people as well as for yourself, and give you an option to discover your specific X and Y pattern and leave here with a clear pathway to transformation. So my invitation is to do that. And in a moment, I'm going to stop sharing here and invite some of you to share. I think I see one question there already. 1 second, let me stop sharing. All right. Okay, Maggie Schroeder, I see you have a question. Can you please unmute yourself and come on video, or at least unmute yourself and ask your question, please, Maggie?
Hi, sure. Thank you so much, Sunil. I
Yeah,
have two questions.
yeah.
My first question is, how do you decide what you should do versus your team?
Um, what you should do versus your team. So you
Hmm.
got, do you run your own business right now, Maggie? Is that right?
I don't, but I have a team,
Okay.
and it can be hard for me to decide if some tasks are things I should delegate to my team or things that I should do myself.
Okay. So, one place to look from is this may require some introspection. Okay. And some people are not used to the level of introspection, but you may want to itemize your list if you want a step-by-step manner of doing this. Itemize the list. Do you have an itemized list of all the things that you feel you should be doing or other people doing? Do you have a list like that, Maggie?
I think I'll have to make one.
It starts with that because you got to account for it all. That will probably help reduce the stress by usually about 30%. If you can measure stress, it's usually measurable, because when you start accounting for the problem, it helps. So that's the first thing I would do. List out everything you can think of that you feel you can delegate, but you're holding on to, and yet you need to hold on to. We can probably create 2 lists like that. Maybe 3. I would start with things that I feel nobody can do except me in the world. Okay. Then the next column is, you could say, things that I think I can delegate to people. And then the third column could be, I'm not so sure. Does that make sense, Maggie?
That's very helpful. Yes, thank you so much.
Hey, I'm not done
And
yet.
oh, okay. Go
You
ahead,
think I'm
please.
done? No, no, you got to start also looking at for each of those things there. I think you joined in late, so you didn't get the XY part. You want to start looking at honestly asking the question, and it might take a while to really do that. You might need a dialogue with someone like me to distinguish it, but there's something you could be avoiding dealing with. Like you could be avoiding, you know, failure. Some leaders are like that, avoiding failure with an honorable intention while being successful. So in avoiding failure, you don't delegate it to people. But life is inherently risky and business is inherently risky. Sometimes you have to take the risk of delegation to discover where your team's really at and how you can delegate effectively. So it could be that you may have to look at what you're avoiding dealing with an honorable intention of maybe avoiding risk. Does that make sense, what I'm saying, Maggie?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
You got to get like really honest about it. If you avoid dealing with this XY, the tendency is to start doing really mechanical work, which usually doesn't address what's really going on. So you got to really look at what you're avoiding dealing with an honorable intention of fulfilling something. Yeah. And
Makes
that
sense.
will,
And I can really relate to wanting to do
what do you
mechanical work.
see? Anything you
Hmm.
see right now, just the top of your head, that you may be avoiding dealing with. Yeah. If you don't mind sharing, because it will help a lot of other
Sure,
people.
I
Yeah,
would be happy to share. So right now
please.
I sent my team off to make a bunch of templates for huge projects that we're doing, and it'd be helpful to have these templates so that it's easier. And we're running up against the deadline, and my team
Right.
isn't moving as fast as I want them to. So here I am doing
Yeah.
one or two templates.
Ah, very good. You see, so there's something missing in how it could be a couple of things. You may want to sit down and have a conversation with me, schedule a time with me, if you feel so inclined to do so, and it's something that you're committed to getting to the bottom of. But it could be that you didn't. There's something you're avoiding dealing with in setting up your team to win right up from the start. So in delegating the task to them, maybe insufficient urgency was placed on them.
Hmm.
Some people avoid giving milestones to people. Hey, listen, team, I need the first draft of this by tomorrow at 3. I know I'm pushing you guys, but I expect it to be done. If you can't do it, push back on me and negotiate, but please do not go out of communication because we need to hit that milestone tomorrow. How many of you are
Hmm.
on board for that? How many of you are questioning it? How many of you need to come and talk to me about that so we can resolve it in 15 minutes? So you got to take that kind of level of intentionality. For some people, it may not for you, but for some people requires a lot of courage to do. So they avoid dealing with that level of setting expectations. You see, if you don't set expectations, you're setting yourself up to be upset all the time. There are 3 causes of upset, actually 4, but I'll give you 3. The first is you don't set up expectations correctly. Second is you have the experience of being thwarted by someone or your team. Your team, you want to go in a direction, a team appears to be throwing you in this direction. The third is an unresolved communication, which happens a lot in teams because they have failures, upsets that happened in the past and they weren't cleaned up. So there's no communication going forward. And the team starts sabotaging you because they have a lot of resentment, or you might be sabotaging them. I'm not saying you, but everyone in general here, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very insightful. Thank you so much.
Okay. Who else here? Wendy, you want to unmute yourself, please, and ask your question for everyone here, if you don't mind. Wendy, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And now I'll go to Daniel. Sorry, Daniel, for skipping you. Yeah. Wendy, please.
Yes, I just had a more like abstract question about the whole X and Y concept.
Yeah.
So can X sort of exist by itself? Does there need to be an honorable attention, like intention?
Almost always there is an honorable intention. It's a little tricky to see it.
Yes.
But if you get the X by itself, it's a good step forward. But when you get the Y, you kind of get the whole pretense of it. The real honesty starts showing up because most people, it's kind of like a cover up that we do. Even the best of us as human beings, we tend to do inauthentic things unbeknownst to ourselves. And we're kind of like sabotaging ourselves. We think we're doing something that's it's for the good of everybody, but it's actually hurting the company. So it's kind of useful to see now, so is your thing avoiding fear? Is it avoiding fear of something specifically or? let's deal with
Um,
specifics here. Yeah, Wendy. Yeah.
I'm guessing X is an avoidance, which is possibly also a fear of something, right? So that's why I put the fear in brackets. Like for example, let's say X is maybe the fear of like not being competent enough to, let's say, run a business. Um, like it's easy to determine what an X is, like
Yeah.
being honest with yourself, but the why behind it.
Well, the why could be that you have an honorable intention of preserving a reputation, in other words, looking good by avoiding the fear of being incompetent. See, because you know, when you avoid looking incompetent or looking bad, you want to look good to people, basically. Avoiding looking bad. The other side of the hand is you want to look good to people. But a lot of people, in trying to look good, they avoid the true performance of their team. As long as they look good, things are okay. They don't have to deal with performance as much.
Okay,
So it
I
could
see.
be something in that area. I'm doing my best here in the short period of time I have. But, if you deal with that, you'll have less brain power in trying to look good and more brain power in providing performance, which is not going to have you look good. It's going to have you look great. You're going to look extraordinary. See, if you want to look extraordinary, you might have to give up looking good. I spent a lot of time in my life trying to look good. I had an engineering job, and I discovered after a while, if I just do the bare minimum, I can get away with it. You know what I'm saying? I get to look good, but I wasn't extraordinary. And extraordinary takes you to a level of performance where you have to deal with where you're focusing your brain power on. I hope I'm making sense. Once I
Yeah.
started doing that, I had so much freedom of my brain power going to performance. And that's when the real kudos started coming in from my bosses who were infinitely smarter than me. I was trying to impress them. And I felt, okay, I'll just impress them just sufficiently. But when I gave up the looking good game, that was when my performance took off and I was promoted a lot more when I was in design engineering. Then I moved on to other organizations. It's extraordinary to discover how extraordinary you are, really. And the enemies of extraordinary are usually in avoiding the fear, avoiding looking bad. When you spend so much time avoiding looking bad, can you imagine someone like that at a meeting? They don't speak up too much. There's no boldness. There's no risk taking. And I'm not saying taking risk at the expense of your life or doing something foolish, but smart risk taking. So if you become a smart risk taker, you can actually increase your performance without necessarily having to look silly. Does that make sense, Wendy?
Yeah, so that's a great example because I have a background in engineering also, and I can relate to everything you mentioned.
You
But
know the game.
yeah, exactly. So I guess in that sense, like the way you sort of combated X, sort of the avoiding looking bad was to shift your mindset into I
I'll
didn't
tell
get
you, I'll make it a lot easier for you, Wendy, and for everybody else here. The 5 stages I mentioned. The first step is awareness. See, when you get aware of it, you don't just get aware of it, you start noticing the costs and the payoffs. See, what you're tending to do is jump into action. It's called when people create an XY, they create a box for themselves. Usually they go between avoiding something and the other extreme of trying to fix it. And they go through really fast. So if you realize, hey, I'm avoiding looking bad, okay, so I'm not going to avoid looking back, and now I'm going to take extreme risks. And that gets ridiculous too, because there's no consciousness to it. The more conscious way is to sit back and relax, but look at the costs and the payoffs of you being in this XY. See, it costs you a lot. It costs you freedom, costs you joy, costs you energy, probably costs you money, costs you promotions. It costs you relationships with people. It costs you being bold because you probably are a bold person, can hear it in your voice. but there's a certain level of suppression there, and that's part of the cost. Some of you who are leaders, I hope you're paying attention because this is how your team is. Some of your team members are like Wendy, who want to produce, but they're afraid of looking bad. So if you take on everything yourself and don't give them a chance to fail, you're not going to train them to get beyond looking good. See? So you got to get all those costs down. Yeah, believe me, there are a lot of costs. I hope you're seeing that. A lot of costs. Costs you joy, engagement. Look at my face. I don't have this XY as much. I do have it from time to time. It comes up, but for the most part, I don't have it. People engage me at a leadership level. I'm the first to say, yeah, I'm doing this wrong. I have no trouble with that. I have less trouble with that, I should say. Don't like saying it sometimes, but I say it because I know on the other side of it, I'm going to create something extraordinary, right? So you got to get what these costs are, going back to that. What are the costs of these XYs? And what are the payoffs? See, the payoff is you get to be comfortable. I'm not going to give you all the payoffs. I don't want to give you these answers. You kind of got to go through this process. In Alcoholics Anonymous, they call this bottoming out. You kind of got to bottom out and see the real costs and payoffs of your behavior before you can transform. Does that make sense, Wendy?
Yes, this was helpful.
So you got to start looking at the costs and the payoffs. I would start listing out costs and payoffs. Just have a sheet of paper in front of you for your XY. Try to distinguish what your XY is. Write that at the top. And then say, what are the costs? What are the payoffs? And then over a week, you're going to start having a list of costs and payoffs. And then you start looking at yourself in the mirror and going, hey, is this really worth it? There's a point in my life when I said, you know what? Enough of this. Enough of looking good. I'm done with it. Because it's really exhausting. And I'm not looking good anyway. Sorry, I can't help it. It's ironic humor. So I really gave it up. Does it come up from time to time? Of course it does. I'm a human being. But for the most part, I let it go. That's why you see this really grinning face here. I'm a silly, my wife likes taking photographs of me in my joyful way. And to create that level of joy and extraordinary being in your business, you really have to get the costs and the payoffs. Okay. So that's where I would kind of inquire into. Does that make sense, Wendy?
Yes, it's helpful.
Yeah, you gotta get straight about this. The more straight you are with yourself, the more. If you jump into a solution too fast, like most people do, you'll get an answer, but it'll lead you right back to where you were before. Yeah. You don't want to do that. You want to really escape. You want to have an escape velocity to this behavior. All right. Daniel Hertzberg, great to hear from you again. Daniel, are you still on,
Yeah,
Daniel?
great to hear from you and see you. Your words are hitting me pretty hard right now. So yeah. So my question was, I guess I feel like I'm just trying to keep up with everything that I have already set in motion, and I feel sometimes that I'm going through this month the process of really doing an inventory of everything I have going on and setting my goals, my visions, like that. It's a good time to be thinking about this because I have to really be conscious of what else I put into my agenda, my list of to-dos, my commitments. So I guess I just want to know your thoughts about what to do when you feel like you're generally just trying to keep up with what you've already set in motion, what you've already what you've already started.
Language is the house of being, a famous philosopher called Martin Heidegger said. And I can tell from your language, it betrays your way of being. If you look at the way you're languaging what you said, okay, generally trying to catch up. In fact, you feel like you're generally trying to catch up. Yeah. There's a level of vagueness in how you approach, and it's probably something XY. I'm not sure. Again, this might require more in-depth look. Okay, I got a short period of time here to look at this, but what I would look at is what is it that you're avoiding about getting specific and clearly committed and choosing. It could be that there's something that you're avoiding choosing, or things that you're avoiding choosing to focus on with an honorable intention of something. I'm not quite sure what it is, but people who speak like this, my 30 years of experience in this kind of languaging that you have, by the way, it's not bad or wrong. Okay. I'm not saying it's bad or wrong or right or good or whatever. It's just not very ineffective languaging. When you have a CEO who says, and I feel like I generally want to try to catch up, uh, most of the company and the board would abdicate and run a mutiny on you, you know? So you kind of got to look at this languaging, and the languaging betrays the XY. There's something that you're avoiding, perhaps in specificity, Daniel, with an honorable intention, perhaps of looking good or being safe or, being kind to people or something like that. Sometimes being nice to yourself or other people may not be the best of your, best thing for you to do. The 13th century meaning of nice meant to be foolish. My advocacy is not to be nice, but to be compassionate, but to also be straight and intentional about what you choose to do. And intentionality means you may need to choose very powerfully what you're going to focus on, with a clear idea that is going to create a return on investment. So this is one trick. Don't commit to actions, but commit to results that are based in a future you really want to live into. So what does that look like? You may need to do some work on your XYs, and you kind of clear out the past, because the XYs, once you work on it, creates a lot of opportunities to put a lot of the things that you learned perhaps at the age of 9, 8, right up to 21, that have continued to exist as strategies in your life. And you can't blame anybody for it. Everybody has them. At the age of 8, I determined that I had to outdo my brothers because they were immensely smart. And if I didn't do that, I would lose the love of my parents. You can see how the crazy thinking occurs at a young age and doesn't quite create expansive thinking. But that wanting to prove went right through the age of 36 or so. My life was just about outdoing my brothers. So, I wanted to go to Harvard, actively trying to get into Harvard, get a scholarship there, and make a lot of money, have an arranged marriage with 2.2 children, and live in a leafy Boston suburb. But none of that made me happy, and it led to avoiding certain things that really made me happy, like avoiding being happy in an honorable intention to honor my parents' sacrifices, because they were, it's when you look at it, it gets really complicated, but it's really not that complicated. It's just avoiding dealing with something in order to honorably fulfill something. Once you distinguish that in the past, then you have a choice of putting that aside or letting it be. By the way, it'll never disappear for you, because some of those things are still working for you. They make you successful to a point. You don't want to get rid of all of it, but you have more consciousness to choose whether you want to apply that tactic that you learned at 8, could still work, or apply something else. But right now, you may not have a sense of choice, because the only thing that's riding you is that. Until it's distinguished, it will run you. So you got to do some work to distinguish what that XY is that may be running you, so that you don't have to feel like you're generally trying to catch up. It's a shift in being rather than practice and tools, I promise you. Once you shift that way of being and you create a new future, then that new future will drive you. But it'll drive you in a better way, probably, in a more healthy way. Am I making sense, Daniel? Or am I losing you?
I think maybe I feel like it went a little bit astray with thinking about it generally. I didn't mean that to sound rhetorical. I do feel like I'm generally trying to
I would trust
I,
your languaging. I would trust it, I would trust it.
yeah. I mean, I am feeling like I often am trying to catch up with things, and it's kind of like right now I have the kind of a contrasting figure in my life with my wife. She is approaching retirement,
Yeah.
and she's been grinding for many years, probably working like 125% of full time for many years, plus
Uh-huh.
commuting. And yeah, I had a different kind of lifestyle, and now I'm kind of seeing that she's kind of switching, to maybe around 15-20% of full time in her work. Same
Yeah.
pay, but her work is downshifted substantially, and she's kind of approaching retirement now. And I feel like I will be in a few years here, but for now, I feel like I'm just kind of grinding. I have like days full of activities, and they're not ambiguous, generalized activities. There's just a lot of different things I'm trying to keep track of that I'm
Yeah.
staying on top of, and I have
Well, can I ask you a question, Daniel? Can
yeah,
I ask you a
sure, of
question that
course,
might clarify a lot of this? Okay.
yeah.
The question, $1 million question is, are you committed to breaking through that? Actually, what are you committed to? That may be the question. What are you committed to as a result in the next, let's just say the next 6 months? Let's not do a 1 year out. What are you committed? Well, let's make it 3 months because I think you might need something like that. Just, trust me on this. That you may need to
hmm
look at the next 3 months here. Yeah.
hmm
What are you
I'd
committed
say
to?
in the next 6 months, I'm committed to achieving a specific income point of about 40K a month.
Okay. So 40K at least?
Yeah, 40K at least per month.
Okay, in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you got one focal point here. Okay.
hmm
Now, I still feel like you gotta look at your XYs because well, let me ask you, and you may have achieved this, but when was the last time you made 40K a month?
I have made 20K in a month. I haven't done 40K in a month, but I have some new systems in place that I think should raise that to 40K per month, probably within the next three
Okay.
months.
Okay. It might still, I'm gonna make an assertion here. You may need to look at, in fact, in all likelihood, my experience, you'll need to look at
hmm
your XYs if you want to make a jump from 20 to 40K. It's quite a bit of a jump,
Okay.
and systems itself, it could, if you're lucky, if you actually, I say you're unlucky, you'll be unlucky if you become successful with just systems itself, because you won't be able to grow, see. So you may hit another ceiling at 40K a month, is usually what happens, unless you really look at your XYs.
Okay.
Because your XYs might help you define and design a better system that might get you to 80.
hmm
See, it's really intriguing to watch people when they distinguish the XY, they see the box in their income. It's not just the income, it's also how they operate, etc., and how they do the leadership and how they do the selling, etc. It just
hmm
affects everything. So, I mean, you could use the system approach and maybe get to 40K, but you may hit and you'll probably hit another another ceiling. But if you
Well,
want
I'm
to,
certain I'm certain I'll hit another ceiling at some point. I mean,
yeah,
we all live within kind of a bracket of a low and a high, right? So,
yeah, yeah,
in our lives, and I think I don't think that 40K is my upper bracket. That's actually I'd say it's much higher than that. But the 40K is the you asked me about the specific income goal, like over the next,
yeah,
like my what I'm committed to over the next 6 months.
yeah.
I think that's one big one that I'm committed to, and I've been working towards that. Um, yeah, so I think that's probably right now what I'm
Yeah,
looking
I
at.
think
I think I
your
could. I mean, the thing is, in the
yeah,
area that I'm in, it could jump up to 80 or 100.
yeah.
You
I
know,
think your where you want to look at is your question is what do you do? I don't think it's what you do. I think it's who you're being
hmm
that's going to shift this bigger for you and probably resolve a whole bunch of other sources of stress and uncertainty for you. If you resolve it at the level of being rather than doing. Because you're searching for doing answers, but I think you'll be back at square one, predictably.
Hmm.
So when you look at being, you'll have to look at what's in the past that's running you unbeknownst to you. And part of that is for certain, and a couple of XYs. Most people have between 9 to 11 XYs at least that are running unconscious, unbeknownst to them. So if you handle those blind spots, you'll probably have a better design for your systems. I'm willing to bet. Not a betting man, but I'm
Okay.
willing to bet. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I don't know what those are because they're blind to me.
Well, it takes
So
dialogue, you see, and your dialogue
yeah.
is more around action rather than being.
Hmm.
But I spoke to you about a couple of months back. It's still
Yeah.
the question of being has not been answered yet for you.
Hmm.
Who you need to be is not quite clear. And that's where I would focus if I were you, knowing what I know, because you don't know what I know, you know. And when I started focusing on being in 1991, but it gave me a tremendous amount of freedom. And it gave me a way of thinking that I thought was just the domain of really smart people.
Hmm.
But it's nothing to do with smarts. It has to do with just refreshing honesty about stuff. I'm not saying that you're a dishonest person all the time. I'm just saying that there's certain things that we're not quite clear about that are kind of blind spots in your being and your level of being. So there's an
Could you
old
give me an
adage.
example? Yes, could you give me an example of that? Of like you say, it's a core question of who I need to be in
Yeah.
this context. Like,
Yeah.
can you
So you
just?
might have heard
I'm
of
getting.
the
I'm getting.
adage.
It's a little bit overly abstract to me. So
You may have heard of the adage be, do, have. Out of who
yes,
you're being, you get to do actions that give you results. Most people have
yes.
it backwards. I'll have happiness, or I'll have money, and then I'll get to do the things that make me happy, and then I'll be happy. It never works that way.
True. Yes.
Works the other way around. It's who you're being. If you shift who you're being. So if you're being someone who is courageous, you'll do courageous actions that will give you a certain set of results and a certain set of experiences for you. Would you agree?
Yes.
So, but if you're someone who's avoiding things, not courageous, in other words, then you'll be doing avoidant actions and focusing on actions that don't really get you to where you need to go. And you can guess what kind of results you'll get out of that. Usually haphazard results. You get results sometimes, but not consistently. So when you are
Okay.
consistently being someone who is courageous, you're going to have courageous actions and courageous, results that come out of that. Be, do, have. When you look at all the people who are really effective, there's a level of being that they bring to the game. Either being intentional, being focused, out of which they have really focused actions that are very commensurate with who they are being or who they say they are being. And then they have results commensurate with that. When I work with teams that are really highly intentional, it's a beautiful experience for me because everyone on that team is being intentional and focused. There's no space for drama. If there is drama, we deal with it on our own, or we deal with it by making requests and promises and resolving it very quickly. There's a high degree of intentionality in our beingness in doing that. That gives you certain actions and a certain experience of results and certain feelings that come out of that in being in a team like that. So yeah, being, it's be, do, have. If you look at it in that simplistic terms, then that might give you some insight
Okay.
into this.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
So you may have to look at,
I mean,
who
I
you're
could. I
being
could. I
right
could.
now that
I
has
could say
you
more space for
result in
everybody
you're
here.
generally trying to, oh, I'm sorry. Say that again.
Sorry. What was that? I
What
think
I
I
was
lost you.
saying that you may need to look at who you're being now that has you generally trying to catch up. That's the result, you see. Whereas this who you need to be in order to stop doing that. So you may need to look at what that shift in being is. And that might give you more clarity of the kinds of systems and designs and all that you need to put in. Yeah. When I worked with German design engineers, with some of the best design engineers in the world, these guys studied philosophy before they open up any engineering textbook, sometimes for 2 years. When I work with these guys, they really taught me that when you come from being, they didn't use those words, but it's pretty much the same thing. You clear out your old thinking when it comes to designing something really well. Whatever it is, an airline, an airplane, piece of hardware. And when you clear out your old thinking or your old way of being around how this design should look like, you start maybe with a fresh slate. Then you look at how you want this new design to be. It gives you usually a better design. So if you have no design, you'll end up with a car like a Yugo, which is a really bad car, for those of you who know. But if you design it well from a place of being, you might end up with a Mercedes-Benz or a Porsche level kind of business. So that's my invitation to all of you, not just Daniel, okay, looking at this. Okay, Daniel, enough to go on for now?
Yeah. Sorry, I lost you for a bit there, but yeah, I think I lost the connection for about a minute.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
What I said was basically you gotta look at who the level of being that you need to shift in order to create this breakthrough for you. If you want to have a breakthrough result, it's usually the domain of being rather than doing.
Got it. Okay.
So that's basically what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, questions? Anybody else, please? Questions? Remember, ask and you shall receive. This is an opportunity for you all to learn something new. Who'd like to ask? Alina Guzman. Who else like to ask a question?
Sunil?
Yeah.
So I'd like you, sorry, I did lose you for about a minute, and I'm sorry if you answered it, but could
No
you
worries.
clarify
Yeah.
a little bit of like what you meant by when you talked about being differently? Like I like, I do feel courageous. I do feel like I'm insightful. I do
Yeah.
feel like I'm thoughtful. I'm strategic. Um, I do feel like most of my decisions are made, from a place of coming from a positive outcome. Of not seeking, like avoiding like some negative, you know, emotional state and stuff like that. So can you clarify a little bit more like what you mean by the root being in my being, and what an example of what that would look like for me?
Well, when I look at your languaging, there's the
Yeah.
beingness of tentativeness.
Hmm.
There's no real boldly staking your claim, like this is where I'm going. There's a little bit of 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
Hmm.
When you look at the languaging, feel like you're generally trying to catch up. See? The languaging betrays a certain amount of like, you don't have the being of a Neil Armstrong who made 100% commitment to get on the moon and land on the moon, step on the moon, and get the heck back safely to Earth. You know, uh, there's a difference in the level of beingness to that. Being means maybe being intentional, uh, being super committed, taking a stand, being willing to risk more, maybe risk some failure and looking bad in order. I'm not saying all of these, I'm just saying, I'm trying to open this up for a lot of people because I'm sure a lot of people have the
Yeah.
same question. Okay.
Hmm.
And, being is not something that it's kind of elusive because you got to inquire into it. The more you inquire into it, the more clear you get. It's in the dialogue that you discover it. But, as I'm talking with you, you might be starting to see like, how you language usually shows a way of being that may not be very effective for you. See, when I lead a team, I took on leading a team in 1997 that was committed to creating funding was actually saving 100 million lives around the world from poverty. And so I never done any kind of lobbying as a volunteer, but I took on this role as a leader in 1997, I believe. And I said to my team, we're going to make this happen. We're going to get $100 million worth of funding. I have no idea how, but this is my commitment. I give my soul to this. I took time off from my work and I gave it everything I got. And I had to go, I was volunteered, even though I was the leader, to go to Washington, D.C. and go see Dianne Feinstein, who was a senator at that time, who held the keys to getting this funding. So I had a meeting with her. I ended up last minute, she had to go do something else. Her aide was there. I made the pitch to him. As he was listening to the pitch, he looked at me and said, "Hey, I like the wording that you use. Can I use some of that wording?" I said, "Yeah, please do that." And they said, "Well, can we make this fly?" He looked at me and said, "No brainer. Yeah, we're going to use your wording and your committed support with all the volunteers that you have in your area, in your constituency. There's no reason why Dianne Feinstein can't do this." Make a long story short, we did get funding. We got $100 million funding, and we saved 100 million lives in the next 10 years. Now, my life forever changed when I got that yes from him. I remember it was a hot, sunny day in June. I had to go out in the grass outside the congressional building, lie in the grass and just recollect myself, because I knew I was no longer the same human being. I couldn't go back to being someone who said, "I don't know if I can make this happen." I learned the value of being a stand, if that makes sense. I got access to a way of being because I inquired into it and I actually put myself at risk. Might be a bit of risk that you might have to put yourself to get this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've taken a lot of risks, but I think you're talking about a different kind of risk than I've taken. So,
But
Oliver,
what you're saying there doesn't show up in your
yeah,
languaging, that there's a disconnect here. There's a disconnect. I'm not sure exactly where it is, and I'm not saying you don't have the capacity. In fact, I believe you do have the capacity. Your languaging is not expressing that.
are you talking about my tone or my language?
No, I'm not talking about tone or anything, just the words and the way you're putting your words together.
Hmm.
This is a blind spot for you. I'm already sensing it's you may have to really inquire into, but look at the wording that you put in the chat box. That it's tentative kind of languaging that betrays you may really desire to have a stand, and you may do it from time to time, Daniel. I'm not saying you never have a stand for anything, but it's not consistent enough, maybe, or there's some, like, you have some loopholes or exits that you may be taking. So you don't really have, you may have to burn the boats a little bit so that you can, you know the story about burning the boats, the Roman
Yeah,
character, I think, yeah.
yeah.
He burned his boats when he reached the beach, and he looked at his men and said, "We have nowhere to go but forward to fight our way to victory." Now, I'm not saying you have to do anything bloody like that or anything silly or, put you at risk, but there's a certain way of being about that that's missing in how you're saying this. And it probably is rooted in some XY, something that you're avoiding dealing with in order to have an honorable fulfillment. And that avoidance could be that you're avoiding really putting yourself at risk and really going full out for this. Somewhere there's a missing in that. And to tie this all in with delegation, if you have a team like that, they'll also sense that there's an escape hatch for them.
Okay.
When I lead teams, not much escape hatch, but I keep things very respectable. I'm not a driver, I'm not a cannonball, but I do keep intention very clear. There's clear intention in the team. My team, Bijal and some other people that provided me with a team, they call me dad. They call me dad for two reasons. One is I take care of them, I really do. But the second is I'm very clear about where we need to go. And if there's lack of performance, I'm not shy about pointing it out. So there's kind of like a gap there. That makes sense. I can sense it
Okay.
for you. And you may have to
Okay.
look deeper into it. The way of the being part is what's going to give you an access to your breakthrough. It may seem a little abstract, but if you really dig into it, it stops being abstract. It's clear as day. You start pointing out, you start seeing practices that you do on a daily basis that are rooted in this XY. You will start seeing how you delegate that are rooted in the XY, or you don't delegate for that matter. See, so it's valuable to really look at your being rather than your systems at this point, because you might, like I said, probably find better systems once you distinguish the XYs. Yeah, I hope I'm making sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Sunil.
Anybody?
Yeah. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Yeah. Well, the ball's in your court. Like I always say, for all of you. I've thrown the ball as a quarterback. Some of you are going to catch it. Some of you are going to do whatever you do. My invitation is do something. All right. Anybody else like to share? If not, we're going to close up here. Last call for shares. Anybody? Going once, twice? Did I miss anybody's question? I think I got everybody's questions.
I have a question, just one last question.
Yeah.
What do you recommend for somebody that's not really in leadership? Like for me, I'm just like an individual contributor. I'm working as an engineer, but wants to hopefully get in leadership one day, maybe start a business or get into like a managerial role.
Well, you start leading even when you're a follower. Consider that you're a leader now. You see, you may be working under somebody, but that person's a leader. If you empower that leader to win, you're a leader too. So you see, I learned this I was an engineer, but I would manage up. This is why I got hired a lot. My second last job as an engineer, I got hired by April Dutta. She looked at me. I was the only non-PhD hired in her team. She said, I hired you because of your energy, what you bring to the game, and what you bring to me as a leader. I feel like I have a partner in you. I have partners in other people, but I certainly have experienced partnership in you. You want to look at this distinction of partnership, whether you're delegating or you're someone who's working under somebody else. There are organizations where I work under other people, but I still lead by creating partnerships with the leader. So a partnership is where I am committed to what this leader is committed to producing and helping him produce that. And I say to him, hey, I'm also committed to this. Will you commit to helping me achieve what I need to achieve? So you have to look and see what you want to achieve for yourself or for the company. Have a conversation with your leader, your boss, and say, listen, how can I have a leadership relationship with you where I'm committed to you winning and you're committed to me winning as well? Maybe winning for you looks like you being promoted. Maybe in 1 year, you want to have a management position. So you got to ask your team leader, listen, I want to work for you. I want to produce results. But at the same time, I want to know for sure that I have a career pathway to being a leader. How can we make that happen? So you don't pay attention to what I'm saying, but how I'm saying it. The way of being I have about it is more key. Am I making sense, Wendy?
Yeah, that's helpful, and especially how you tied it into being the aspect of working also on having qualities that's you.
I bring a certain amount of mischief to every organization, whether I'm a leader or not. I act as a leader. I'm being a leader, whether I'm officially a leader or not. I bring a certain presence to the game, I have a partnership with Bijal who runs his admin agency, but I show up like a leader. I show up like I'm committed to having his organization be the best organization out there in his industry. I actually take it on like that. See, when you take it on like that, there's a way of being that you have where there's no compromise, but you're not burning yourself out. You're doing it joyfully. You embrace it. You really choose to be like that. Hey, I'm going to do whatever I can to make my leader successful in his game or her game. See, when you start acting like that, then you know how to empower leaders. Then you become a leader yourself. And believe me, if people are wise above you, they'll start noticing you. They will start noticing you. Trust me, they will. They will want to promote you. Make sense?
Yeah, no, it's great. Like again, the aspect of working on the qualities that you want to show is helpful for me because I noticed that sometimes I appear in rooms as an individual contributor, and like you can see it that I don't really see myself as a leader, so people wouldn't see me as a leader. Like I go into a room knowing, okay, this is my role. I'm like, I
See,
just heard a
you're
little about
showing
the
up as a
demonstration.
leader right now by asking questions. You're showing up. Now, there are other people here who are leaders, but they're not expressing themselves. You are, you see. So what I'm saying is you have a way of being that right now, when you're asking me questions, if you bring that way of being with your management, then you can start creating partnerships with those people. It might take a bit of time and you might hit some politics, but politics is par for the course. You start learning to deal with that. The only way to learn how to deal with politics is to dive in. Learn how to do it by diving in. How do you learn how to swim? You dive in the pool. You can't read it in a book. How do you learn to ride a bicycle? You can't learn it from the pavement. You got to get on a bicycle. Now, can you learn certain things about better riding bicycles, how to foot placements? Yeah, you can learn that from a book, but you learn most of it just getting on the game. So you got to get on the game. You got to show that you're in the game of leadership, not just followership.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
If
really
your
great.
boss is wise and he's seen that, he will promote you. If he's not wise, well, it might be other reasons, might be politics. But then you have an opportunity to move to some other organization where they'll respond. But now you'll know, see what it takes. But you got to start working, you got to start being like that. And I really mean, I hope you all get that it's really all about being. You can do all you want, it won't make a difference usually. But if you shift your way of being, people start noticing. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. Request for coaching. I sense somebody wanting to ask, but they're afraid. Anybody else? Ashley, Castaneda, Alina, Betty, Crystal, Joe, Luke. Okay. If you want a session with me, you can click on the link. I already posted it in the chat box. Feel free to click on that. Make sure you fill out all the information. I'm picky about who I take on in those free sessions. Picky in the sense that you got to give me information. If you give me scant information, I'm not going to talk to you. Give me enough information. Put something at stake that you want to learn in the session, and I'm happy to do that. Okay, I thank you all for the opportunity to make a difference with you all. Thank you. Take care. Have a great day, and hope to talk to you and hope you all learned something of value today. Take care. Talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Sunil.
Hey, you're welcome, Daniel. Take care.